Cloud. Okay. Um, so I'm going to go through some information about both of the honours options that you've got for this year. It's a real honour to be able to speak with you about it, and I realise that I'm doing so in really precarious times. You're studying social work at a time that I don't think we've seen such a lot of violence and distress around the world, or within our own country. There's a lot of change, an election coming up, the potential for negative narratives to be really front and centre. So I guess as I was preparing all of this, I was just wanting to acknowledge that and to say to you that I think doing honours, whether it's the honours portfolio or the honours thesis, is actually a really helpful way of making meaning and delving into aspects of our world that you're curious about in a positive, hopeful, evidence-informed way. And I hope that you leave this session with enough information to make some choices about which honours you would like to pursue. And just before we do move forward, I'd just like to acknowledge my colleagues. We've got Natasha, who's reasonably new. Thanks for joining us today. Natasha's on our teaching team, and you'll know her because she's teaching both child and family practice and social development this term. We've got Abna, who is actually one of the honours conveners, so convening the honours thesis course and teaches evidence-based practice, evidence for social work practice in term 2. And we've got Philippa Evans, who is a really valued past convener of the honours portfolio, and I think is mentoring and handing over that convening to Natasha. And also all three are valued mentors in the research space. We've also got Joyce Wu online, and Joyce will explain her their role. Joyce is actually the school-based honours convener and supports us in our work. So let me figure out how to progress the slides. Oh, Pip, I'm going to need your help again. There we go.
You want to keep on talking?
Yep.
Okay. Oh no, it's not.
It's all right.
Oh,
Beautiful.
there you go.
Solve my problems every time. Yeah. Okay, so I would like to just acknowledge country everywhere we look, everywhere we stand, everywhere we move on this beautiful campus. Always was, always will be, and is Aboriginal lands. And I'd like to pay my respects to Bidjigal people who have cared for these lands since time immemorial, to elders past and present, and extend respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander students we have in our cohort, and Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander staff we have working in our amazing program. So I might just hand over to Joyce to introduce themselves and explain their role. Joyce, are you okay if I do that?
Yes, definitely. Can everybody hear me okay, Marie?
Yes, we can. And I'm just going to pin you and try to make your screen a bit bigger. Oops, got rid of you altogether. Okay, there you go.
Okay. So hi everyone. Welcome to term 1 and the start of the year. And as Marie mentioned, my gosh, what a timeline. It's what close to end of February, and there's just been so much things happening around the world. And I also want to reiterate Marie's message is that social workers have such an important job building society, connecting people, especially in times of, in times of unrest, uncertainty. And so I really think that it's all of you, scholars, students who have such an important role in this very, very horrible timeline, I should say. So I am the school's honors program convener, as Marie mentioned, and in terms of in that, what does that mean? It simply means that I have sort of like an oversight of the different honors program. I'm actually in global development, so that's my disciplinary background, and I'm also the global development stream convener. And I think some of you, your names are familiar. I think I've seen your names in my courses as well. So in that vein, I work very closely with Abner and Marie in supporting you guys, uh, you know, more so for students who take on the honors, social work honors thesis component. And so that means, giving you advice on thesis supervision, supervisors, examiner allocation, moderation of thesis, as well as things like offering support if students need to, seek extension. Marie, did you want me to, will you be going over the honors thesis and portfolio difference, or shall I
Yes,
start?
we
Yeah,
will. No, we've got, yeah, if you stop there, and are you able to stay on so that if students have questions at the
yeah,
end, they can
definitely.
ask you? Brilliant, thank you. Um, remove pin. How do I go back to this? So just making sure that everyone online can still see the slides. Can you shout out if you can't, because I can't see you anymore? So by the end of this presentation, you'll be all wondering why I'm up here doing it, because I don't convene any of the courses. But I suppose the important information is that in order to complete your degree, you need to do one or the other of these honours courses. Perfectly fine. We have no holds on you, which one you choose. We support you no matter what. But in my role as program director, I oversee your experience, and I am here to help you make sense of how this links with your placement, how it links with other things like equitable learning plans or special circumstances that come up for you. And I kind of bring it together so that I guess across the 4 years, you have the information you need in a timely way and at the right time in order to make some informed decisions about honours. So that's why I'm up here, but I will hand over to some of my colleagues in a minute. I just want to commend them to you. So each of the people who convenes these courses, and Joyce, who manages the school honours at a school level, are all very supportive of our honours students. So take a moment to utilise this QR code. We will come back to it at the end if you're not keen on scanning it right now. It will take you to the honours expression of interest form. Thank you to my tech wizard, Abner, for setting that up. There's also a link in the slides to the same form. And I'll share the slides with you after this session. So just a few brief overviews of the program. For 2025, please be aware the standard enrolment is actually SOCW 4016 Honours Portfolio course. That is the standard enrolment. You don't need a particular WAM to get into that. You just need to have completed all your prerequisite subjects. In order to get into SOCW 4015, the Honours Thesis course, which we'll go into more detail about in a minute, you do need to express interest. And it's really important that you express interest within the timeframes that we've set up. So your expression of interest form is due by the 19th of March. Now, don't tell anyone this secret, but that's week 5. And if absolutely necessary, we can extend it using the generosity of our hearts. But I didn't want to set it in week 6 because, as you know, we're not allowed to set anything to be due in week 6. So if you find that you can't quite get it done by then, I know that there's a number of assignments that are due in week 5. Just reach out to us. But actually do it early. If you feel like you know what you're doing and after this you feel confident, do it now. Get it out of the way. You can always update it if you need to later, if your ideas change. So due by the 19th of March. Eligibility for that course is based on your your expression of interest. That is, how well does it fit with people's expertise, and how feasible and viable do we think this project is? We will reach out and contact you if we're concerned about that or if we need more information. And you do need to have a WAM of over 70 to qualify for SOCW 4015. And that is calculated at the end of term 1. So we can't actually determine whether you are eligible until the results are processed for this term. Bear in mind that some of our most talented students elect to do honours portfolio for a variety of reasons, which will become clearer later. But if you have a passion for doing independent work, the honours thesis is probably your best selection. So we will communicate with you about the outcome of any expressions of interest by O week of term 2. That's to give us enough time to process your results, make sure that you're eligible, allocate supervisors, make sure we've got any sense of any changes that need to happen, and give you an opportunity to start in term 2 with supervision. So that's our ideal. Please avoid too much emailing back and forth before that. We get a lot of students inquiring, and we will let you know by then. Even if our rollout is a little bit staggered, even if your friend has heard before you have, don't panic. Just know that we are aiming to get that all finished by O week of term 2. The other thing is about enrolment. A lot of students have inquired. Some students have inquired about not being able to enroll, and some students have already selected 4015 in their course registration. That's all perfectly fine. But if you don't end up progressing to doing honours thesis, the school office will help us remove you from that course, enrol you in the right course further down the track. At this stage, you haven't signed your life away. There's still room for flexibility, decision making, and thinking. Okay, so I'm going to ask Pip and maybe even Natasha to come up and speak to these slides, give you a bit of information about the honours portfolio.
Hello. What a delight you get to see me in half an hour as well. So I have had the pleasure of convening the honours portfolio over the last, I think it's been 3 years, and that I also supervise honours thesis students. And people will often say to me, which one would you choose? And I love both options. It depends on you as an individual learner. You can still get really great marks doing the honours portfolio. It is just scaffolded in a way where you do have due dates for each of the 3 assessments, whereas the honours thesis, you have one big due date at the end. So, that's just one of multiple differences. So very much this portfolio is centers around helping you, supporting you to create a compendium of work that you can actually show to your potential employers. So what that is very much leveraging your practical experience from your level 4 placement and getting you to deeply engage with a theory, policy. I should have written this down. Theory, policy, population. Social issue. A social issue. So there's 4 things that you can do. It's not the intervention. This is where people kind of get, but very much. So a lot of students for their first assignment, you do a deep dive into a theory that's really relevant to your placement organisation. So for example, we see a lot of students doing a deep dive into systems theory, a deep dive into attachment theory, a deep dive into women experiencing homelessness as a population. And that's probably our biggest assessment in terms of that's 3,000 words. But what that does is actually give you a really robust knowledge of your organisation and many of the platforms that they do, or the knowledge that they actually rely on in terms of their work. Often supervisors are incredibly impressed that you write 3,000 words on this particular chosen topic, and you're really encouraged to be engaging with the seminal authors. So you're actually going back to think about, well, what did Bowlby say about attachment theory? What's Bronfenbrenner saying? And is that relevant to contemporary social work? So very much bringing it from the books into how you're experiencing these theories, these policies, these populations in practice. The second assignment is a Viva analysis, and that's very much looking at your intervention. So looking at what are you actually doing in placement? Are you doing cognitive behavioral therapy? Are you doing narrative therapy? Are you doing project work that's using a particular methodology? And we're getting you to present that to, oh, thank you, Marie. Getting you to do a presentation. It's called a Viva presentation around the evidence base for that particular intervention and then how you're experiencing that in your practice. So you can very much see that this is allowing you to deep dive into the academic world, but then take a step back and see how you're actually experiencing these interventions. And the third assessment is a reflection piece. So we take a step back in time and we get you to look at one of your assessments from ethics and reflective practice, and then think about the growth that you've done over the last 12, 18 months. Think about 2 years for some people. It's been some time in your progression since you may have done that subject. And have you changed? What kind of comments did you get about that paper? How have you been socialized to the social work profession? So that's 1,000 words. Each step of the way, you are supported. So this is different to any other course that you will experience. You've got 3 one-hour lectures where you'll get myself and Natasha talking to you about the assessment. There's nothing hidden. We're being very explicit, and actually our lectures are all based around the marking rubric. That doesn't sound as exciting as it is, but we're very much saying this is how we're marking you. This is what you need to be thinking about. And then we have our tutorials to really unpack that. So your tutors are not providing you with new content. Actually, we're saying you're the content experts, and we're challenging you to produce these pieces of work that match the marking rubric. So everything's designed to support you to complete your practice portfolio. Natasha will be the lead in term 3, but don't worry, we are a team and we will support each other to deliver a really, I think, really great and thought-provoking course. I don't know if I want questions now or no.
Do people have any burning questions for Pip right now? If you're online and you've got a burning question, shout out.
I wonder if we can get them back. No, I'm not going to touch it.
All right. Do you mind? Are you able to stay for a few more minutes?
Yes,
Yeah?
of course.
Okay.
Thanks, Natasha.
Thank you. Okay. So there's one more option. There's option 2A and option 2B. So option 2 is exactly the same, but there's just a few different pathways that you can take if you do actually plan to do an honours thesis. So I thought I might get Abner up to speak to the honours pathway that just involves selection, proposing your own research project, which comes up in a minute. Sorry, the first one I'll speak to is this, which is some selected projects. So for the last couple of years, the social work discipline has workshopped some ideas that we then provide to you, and you have the option to express interest in doing a special project that we have developed up with our colleagues, either within the university or external to the university. So the EOI then becomes your application to complete a project designed by passionate members of the social work discipline, paired with staff from related disciplines or colleagues in the field. Now, Abner has, as it happens, has at least 2 of these selected projects. So do you want to jump up and talk to these?
So, hi, good afternoon, everyone, and thanks, Maria, Pete, and Natasha. So I think I taught most of you, if not all of you, in second year for counseling and group work. So this is the first project. So Professor Anthony and I were doing this particular project. So what happened is, what we found is that the physical health of caregivers, they are affected badly by the consequences, impact of caregiving, but we don't really know much about that. So we are inviting any student who's really keen to look into the physical health of caregivers, whether it could be mental illness, disability, or any other condition, whether you want to do literature review or some other things. We are open with whatever ideas that you want to do. We are basically here to support you to develop your idea. As what I mentioned before in second year, maybe you can't remember, In social work, we always talk about biopsychosocial, but what we focus is usually psychological and social. So this project really brings us back to the biological component. Yep. Should I go on to the second one?
Yeah, the second one is here.
Okay, so this project is really exciting. It's really new. We talk about social work being leaders in the field, correct? So leaders as supervisor, team leaders, management, or even different aspects as being leaders. But we really know very little how to be effective leaders, what are requirements to be leaders. So we're opening this option to students, whether you want to do literature review or you want to do some data analysis or secondary data analysis, just let me know, okay? And this work is really based on the works of Professor Robin Miller, who came last year. He did a lot of work on social work leadership. So I'm working with him. We want to do something in future, but we need to start something small first, which really fit in nicely with social honors project. So just contact me. You know how to contact me. So I'll be very happy to talk to you to explore what ideas you have regarding the first one or the second projects.
And just before we move on, I just want to acknowledge Abner for his consistent work in that regard. You know, he's got a depth of expertise around these issues, and curating some honours projects that gives you the opportunity to think deeply and do some meaningful, impactful research is a really wonderful opportunity. Don't underestimate the value of knowing what it is that you're going into and not necessarily having to start it all from scratch. It makes a huge difference. And Abner is a really valued mentor when it comes to doing scoping reviews and literature reviews. So thank you for developing those two very interesting projects. Not to brag or anything, but this is also a very exciting project. So there's a lot of text on there, but just in a nutshell, we've actually obtained some funding to bring up to 5 students over to Japan for 4 weeks in August, September. And you don't have to do it as an honours project. It's perfectly fine if you don't, but you might consider doing it as a placement if you are still interested, but you don't want to do it as your honours project. But I am keen, we're really keen to give you the opportunity, if you are interested in sort of a deep dive exploration into social work practices in 2 different contexts, to propose this or to express interest in this as an honours project. So the idea would be if you did this as an honours project, you would start at the beginning of term 2, doing your research and doing some inquiry into what social work in the 2 contexts actually looks like, starting to scope out what your project might look like, and then come with us for a wonderful visit for 4 weeks to Japan. And while we're in Japan, we're going to 3 main locations. So we're going to Tokyo, where we've got an existing relationship with the Japan College of Social Work, and they're going to introduce us to some of their colleagues, and we'll visit them and talk with them about what's important to them in their practice, how they do, what they prioritize, any challenges they're experiencing, and compare and contrast that to the Australian context. We'll then go to a rural location that's close to where the tsunami and earthquake happened not a long time ago. They're in the midst of community rebuilding and disaster management still. And so that's, I don't like to say it out loud because I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's, I'm just trying to find it. Tohoku is where we'll be going. So we'll take the bullet train from Tokyo up to Tohoku and then back to Tokyo. Then the 3rd location will go across to a different part of Japan, to the Kansai region, where we've also got a partnership with the Kwansei Gaokin University. And so Japan College of Social Work is the institution that prepares social workers for the Ministry of Health, Labour and Welfare of Japan, and they're actually established in legislation. KGU is a private, non-denominational Christian university in the Kansai region of Japan. So I also want you to think about if you want to do this as a placement, but you don't have to do it as both. You can do it either as an honours project and link it to what you're doing in your placement, or you can do it as a placement and actually just be part of the research and part of the overall experience, but not have to write a thesis at the end of it. And I would like to say that First Nations students and students who can communicate in Japanese and or have some familiarity with the cultural norms are particularly encouraged to apply. And we will partner with the School of Humanities and Languages to support that, because we realise that doing this research in that context needs some cultural skills. So there's more information there. Pip and I are collaborating on it, so we'll be your supervisors for honours and or potentially for a placement if you express interest in this project. And when I said it involves this exchange, we have got some funding. It's about $4,000 that can support you in your travels to Japan and with the costs that are associated with the research. And finally, Abner and I are collaborating on a project, and if you are interested in that, please contact us. This has been developed in partnership with the Concord Centre for Mental Health. It has a focus on improving social work responses to the needs of people with low to moderate mental health diagnoses in a metropolitan area health service. So what they're concerned about is that their existing model is actually no longer efficient and or safe. It's not well attuned to promoting people's well-being. They want to look at alternative models that sort of involve more of a team-based approach. So you have the opportunity here to do a scoping review or a rapid evidence review to support them in developing a new practice model. So if you are interested in either of those, please don't hesitate to contact me for the Japan ones and Abner for the others, but we'll collaborate across the different projects. I might just get Abner up to talk to the honours thesis, the self-initiated, which is the option 2B. Are you okay to do that?
Yeah. Okay. So this is also a very exciting component. So first of all, as what Pip has mentioned, whether you do the portfolio or the thesis, you have the equal chance to get honours first class. It doesn't mean that if you do thesis, you only get first class, and then if you do portfolio, you don't get. Both have equal chance. So both you can do well for either portfolio or thesis. So for the thesis component, what you're required to do is to produce a written work of 10,000 words, but it can go up to 12,000 words. Okay, so as what you read in those journal articles, it will be similar in format. You have like introduction, literature review, a conceptual framework, methods, findings, discussion, and then you conclude with lots of references after that. So in term 2, what we have is evidence-based practice research 4011 that will support you to do the thesis as well as the portfolio. So the seminars are all designed that way. So for the thesis component, so in 411, we teach you how to do a scoping review or rapid review. So if you're doing thesis for using scoping review, rapid review, that will be useful for you. So to do the thesis, you have 3 options. Okay, the first option is to do scoping, a literature review, either scoping review or rapid review. Okay, based on the topic that you want, it can be any topics that's related to social work. Okay, it's not narrowly defined, it's a broad social work concept. Okay, so first one, literature review or scoping review. Second one is conceptual research, meaning that, for example, you want to look at a particular theory or concept, for example, system theory, some feminism, and you want to unpack the ideas of that, apply for a particular population or group of people and so on. So that is the second method, is conceptual research. Okay, so if you look into journal articles, you find some journal papers regarding a concept that will be in similar format for your thesis. The third option is empirical research. So meaning that you have some data, you analyze that, and you write your finding based on those empirical data. Because your social work thesis time frame is really short, okay? So you only have term 2 a bit of time and term 3 to do it. So we don't recommend you to do a full empirical data right from the start. For example, you try to get ethics approval, through UNSW. It takes a really long time to get ethics approval, 3 months, 6 months, and so on. So what we recommend you, if you want to do data analysis, we recommend first talk to the supervisor. They may have some data for you to analyze, because based on their projects, or maybe there's some public data available, for example, in the justice system, in the health system, from the ABS, or from some other places, that you can analyze those data and try to find findings that's relevant for your social topic. Okay, so there's 3 ways: literature review, conceptual research, or the empirical. Okay, so 10,000 words, but you can go up to 12,000 words. So for this particular component, we will pair you with a suitable supervisor. The person can be from social work or can be from the social science or school. Sometimes we also get people outside of a school, for example, from law and justice or from the social policy research center. So you indicate all those things in the EOI form that Maria put up for you just now. Yep. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And so you would have noticed that in the information form, there's a link to explore the expertise that some of our colleagues have. Please have a look at that as you're starting to think about the topics that you want to do. And yes, it's a good idea to reach out to people if you've got an idea in mind and you're thinking of putting them down, their names down on your form. Okay, so someone has flagged that the link isn't working particularly well. It should be working in the information form that I sent around by email the link I put up. If it's not, I will check it, and because I did check it, but I'll check it again. Apologies for that. Okay, so we're getting to the end of our presentation. In terms of where you can get more information, okay, so Jade's clarified that it says you need to request access.
And
I
I'll just jump in.
Yeah.
I've been approving people's access to view.
So we've got Joyce online, and it's Joyce is the author of this document.
Yeah.
So I think all you need to do is just request access and Joyce will give you access.
So I've been clicking approve, approve, approve. So please.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you so much, Joyce. I will stop sharing my screen so we can actually see the voices that come from afar. But there is more information in the social work handbook. All of this information that we've provided today and in the recordings should be consistent. I believe there's still an honours thesis storage room in the Morven Brown building. It's on the level above my office, so in room 222. In order to get access to that, I think you still need to go and get a key from the SOS office. I'd really encourage you to go and have a flick through people's printed out copies of their theses, even just to understand the sections of the thesis, how long it is, what they've said about who they've gained support from, how they've actually shaped up a research question, how they've balanced all the different parts of the thesis. Do that sooner rather than later. You won't need to do it forever. It's good to have a look at it as you're thinking about your options. Contact Joyce, particularly if you want to, if you've got questions about eligibility, your research topic and potential supervisors outside of social work. Contact me if you want to discuss the balance between honours and your level 4 placement, or if you've got any other queries about the year ahead. And contact the conveners, so Abner, Philippa Evans and Natasha, if you've got any questions about the particular courses that we've talked to today. No one is any more important or less important than the other, despite the fact that some of that is in bold and others of it is not in bold. I apologise. Okay, so we have not very much time left, but are there any burning questions? I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And just have a look and see if there are any questions. So yes, confirming that this PowerPoint will be posted to Moodle. Yes, Stephanie.
influence any postgrad study? Would any of the projects influence or assist for students who are seeking further postgrad, whether it's right after this or months ahead? Would an honors thesis versus a portfolio make any difference at all?
In terms of having completed honours, it's recognised. Both of the streams are recognised and not differentiated. In terms of having gained in-depth research experience of developing a research project from beginning to end and completing a single piece of work that ticks off some of those milestones, the honours thesis is well designed if you think you'll go on to do higher degree research. But if you're thinking about going on to do a professional master's like social development or Masters of Counselling and Social Work, actually the portfolio is really well suited. And even the portfolio is really well suited to a professional doctorate. So it really is up to you whether you want to carry an independent piece of research through to its conclusion this year. But if not, there are actually lots of value in doing the portfolio or the thesis. Yes. So students who want to do research at a master's level can do a Masters of Philosophy. I think that's the main opportunity, and that's a smaller, I think 40,000 words or something, a smaller piece of research over a period of time with lots of support and mentoring. Shouldn't have mentioned the word count.
For let's say if you want to do a PhD in the future, under UNSW, if you want to do a PhD in future, for UNSW, if you have honors second upper class and above, you can go straight to apply to do PhD. Okay, you don't need to do a master's. You can, yeah, correct. If you have a honors second upper and above, you can go straight to apply for PhD.
And Abner, that's
I'm the deputy convener for the higher degree research. If you want to know more, you can contact me.
so Abner, just clarifying, that is good advice based on whether you've completed the portfolio or the thesis. Okay, good. Yes,
I was
Gypsy.
just gonna ask if with your expression of interest, how particular do you need to be? Like, I have some ideas. Can I do more than one idea and then get some advice? Or do I have to sort of specify, like, am I narrowing it down myself? And
So
like,
the
how
kind of
specific does it have to be?
The kind of specificity that we like is a little bit like what we've provided here on the slides. It's very hard for us to allocate you to a supervisor if we don't know what it is that you want to do. The reason why we've set this due date 4 weeks in the future, with the option of extending the due date a little bit if you need, is so that you can actually talk with people about your ideas and submit a well thought through idea that we can then use to allocate you. So it's not ideal to be submitting more than one.
Okay, and then work with them to actually pull the question out.
Yeah.
More specific. Okay.
Yeah. Joyce, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, look, I've just been clicking approve. There's been a flurry of requests. Look, I think either the research, the portfolio, or the thesis will be amazing opportunity. There's no right or wrong way to go about it. In terms of the 2.2B option, the social work honors thesis itself, I think it's really good to focus on a topic that you're interested in, that you have some knowledge about, and maybe, look back at what your earlier assessments or thesis you have written, you've done well, areas that you feel, confident and interested to engage in it for the next 2 terms. Simply just from a strategic position, you will be doing placement as well as your portfolio or thesis. And so that will be a really intense time for you, incredibly rewarding, but also very intense. And I presume a lot of you will be working part-time as well, yeah? So, so you got to think about all of those work, family, study balance and what's the best thing for you.
Joyce, thank
Does
you
that
for
answer
those
the question?
comments. There's one more question. And that's about the timeframes. We did deal with this in the recorded lecture, but I will go over it here just because it's been asked here. If you're hoping to do the honours thesis, you will start at the beginning of term 2, and the due date will be around mid-November. If you are hoping to do the honours portfolio, you will start at the beginning of term 3, and there will be due dates in, say, week 4, week 7, and week 10.
Nearly right.
Go on.
Yeah.
Correct me.
Yeah, the second one wasn't correct, but that was not bad.
2 out of 3 is not bad. So for more detail on that, please do see the recorded lecture that I disseminated last week, because it also has a comparison and contrast of why would you do one or the other, and what do people say about it, and how do they stack up together. Thank you so much for your time today. I look forward to seeing you later this week, and good luck with your thinking. Please don't be strangers.
Oh, yeah.